Hello, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Molweni Mzansi Africa, and welcome to your #1 youth show. This is Expressions right here on SABC 1 and DTT. Khumbuza mbukeli, liqonga lakho lokuzityanda igila. This week on Expressions, sijongana nengxubakaxaka ekakumkhaka yokuxhatshazwa ngokwesini iGBV ngelasemzini. Esi senzo ke mbukeli simanyomnyezi has provoked anger amongst communities as we saw various stakeholders and communities demonstrating their outcry on the streets recently. Ibali ke elithela xhokonqa inhliziyo libali lentwazana eneminyaka esixhenxe nekutyholwa ukuba iye yadlwengulwa isesikolweni. Eyona nto eke yathi yakhwanqisa abaninzi indlela elithela singathwa ngayo elityala mbukeli. Uyaqomba ukuthi it's scary what young people are going through in their quest to get justice. Adding to the crisis is the outcome of the rape and human trafficking case against Timothy Omotoso and 2 others, which is seen as discouraging. Kwabo abathi bona, they want to report sexual assault and gender-based crime. Siyabuza namhlanje nkqubeni umbuzo ongagungqiyo. Is the South African justice system failing GBV victims? Let us take a look at your views on the ground as zaqulunqwa ngumqulunqi wethu uMziyanda Mbehla.
How many times do we need to speak up and they do nothing about it? And as for Senator Omotoso, we're very quiet. We are literally bleeding as a country and you are quiet. This is a pandemic and you are quiet. They're not doing enough because the government is failing GBV and they're doing nothing in our country to solve the problem of women and children being victims. They need to get into the cases. They have police out here trying to after us. What about those that are getting raped right now? Those that have already custody to the system and they're doing nothing about it. We do not feel safe in this country, and I keep emphasizing this. I feel like people need to stop normalizing rape. They need to stop normalizing sexual assault. They need to stop acting like it's a thing that is happening and it's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen. Women's bodies and children's bodies are not objects for men to just play around with.
This is justice for every female who has been failed by our justice system and is not defended by our justice system. We want justice! 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 We want justice!
Those are young views of young people coming to the ground. Bafuna obulungisa. They want justice. To help us unpack this discussion in studio, we are joined by Nothemba Sonjinga from Commission for Gender Equality. Alongside her, it's Punso Sirumala, who is a GBV victim. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, we're talking about GBV. South Africa is in crisis. I mean, one of the views on the street said that, you know what, we are bleeding and no one is saying anything. Nothemba uxolo. I mean, is the justice system really failing? Amani Mzansi Africa.
Inzima lento kholosa ngoba ezizimvo zivezwayo apha ngabantu basesitratweni is valid and says acknowledge. Zikhona cases njengale case kaCwecwe nele case kaTimothy Omotoso apho abantu bafilisha as if the justice system has failed them, and rightfully so. Phinde kube khona ne cases apho we see the hefty sentences, but they're not serving as a deterrent factor to would-be offenders. So inzima to give a straight answer. I can say yes and I can say no. I know there are a number of victims who have been failed by the justice system. As the Commission, we've seen those complaints, we've received those complaints, we've monitored those cases, we've intervened where we can. And then there's also cases where the courts imposed harsh sentences or hefty sentences, but still that is not serving as a deterrent factor to other would-be offenders.
Yeah, as you are saying that, I mean, there are a number of victims who feel that, you know, justice is not served. And it's thetha naye uhleli apha with the experience yakhe upunza zawuthi mina lento endithetha ngayo ndiyayazi yenzeke kum, and yafuna nje usithatha usibeke to your journey in fighting for justice. Kwenzeka ntoni? Lithini ibali lakho?
Okay, sanibonani ekhaya and e-studio. Igama lami nguPonso, as you have alluded. I'm a survivor of GBV. That's what I'm calling myself now because I've conquered
Yeah.
being a victim. I-justice system yethu iyasifeyila kakhulu on the cases, starting from when you are opening your cases. They are not taking the cases of women and children very seriously, because first thing, when you go there is no privacy when you open your case. There is no sense of emergency of what state are you on. Mina, I was a burn victim, burned by an acid, coming straight from the hospital bed to open a case because police could not come to me. So I could not wait for them, I have to go to them. Me on a drip stand, with nurses surrounding me, waiting for anything, standing with people who are there to certify their documents, telling them what happened to you, being asked questions repeatedly while everybody is staring at me, feeling shame, hearing those, oh, son, why? But you're getting, I'm being re-victimized. There is no privacy when dealing with such cases. Imagine a 7-year-old being put on that kind of a spot where now you have to point what happened to you in front of everyone. Being asked, what question is that? Meaning that even if I did something, do I deserve?
It's not justifiable.
Do I deserve to be treated that way? Even if I was not wearing anything, walking on the street, do I deserve to be raped? Even if I did offend you in any way, do I deserve to die? You're getting my point? So our justice system is failing us. Then you pass from that first stage, you go to the courts. Then you're going to get convinced that, you know what, your case won't go anywhere because it's your word against you, because it's your husband. There are no witnesses. There is nothing. So it takes resilience whether you're going to fight for your case. For myself, I fought for my case to get on the roll. It was stuck on the roll I don't know how many times. Each and every time you have to push, no, your case, you did close your case. When you go there, can I have my statement? There is no statement. No, there are no hospital records. When you provide the hospital record, because luckily for me, I knew, I've been on the street marching for this before it could even happen to me. So I knew how our justice system works. So I had to make sure that I documented each and everything, get whatever evidence that I could lay my hands on. So I had my hospital records copies, even after they did whatever, you know, money exchange hands. And then my hospital records, mysteriously so, they disappeared from the hospital. But I had my own. That's how my case ended up in court and being on trial. So our justice system, from I cannot say this department is better than the other. And to get a trial for more than 8 years, how can you recall being called after 8 years to recite what happened to you 8 years back? How are you going to do that? And from the young age, the quick girl is going to drag for I don't know how many years, up until she become a teenager. Maybe, because that's the system that we are on. And will she recall what happened to her 10 years back?
And this is a reality for many GBV survivors. You know, some of them batete because of this exact experience. And I mean, the justice system has been heavily criticized because if you look at the crisis that we have within the forensic system, the national DNA backlog, it exceeds to 140,000 cases. That means that it leaves GBV victims zingenandawo, yet perpetrators zona, they will be walking free. In this case, I mean, how would you say justice yethu has contributed to this rising number?
All right, so the issue of DNA is an issue we've picked up as the Commission for Gender Equality. Last year, SABCs are the SAPS, SABCs are the NPA, SABCs are the Department of Health. One of the issues as I've hearing is that even in cases where samples zithathiwe, amapolisa awayi yothatha results elab. Ngelo xesha kukhona survivors ezilindileyo ba kube kwezi results cases abo zizoproceed. So the DNA backlog contributes to victims ne survivors uba zidane okanye zityhafe ziphele ziwithdraw case because the case is taking too long. It also contributes to backlog. Case ichithwe because DNA results azide zibuye kuthiwa case has been struck off due to further investigations ezingade zifinalized. So contributor to court roll, contributor to also survivors ne victims zityhafe ngecases zabo ziphele ezinye zingade ziyize forward because yazi this is going to take forever.
And I mean, your story, Ponso, is very different because I mean, you had to be courageous, you had to be resilient, because, I mean, already you saw how this system is going to fail you, but you were like, you know what, I'm not going to fail myself. And kwezinye ke ngoku i-GBV victims and survivors eziqonda into yobana mna ndincamile. Ungathi mhlawumbe looking at the justice system, njembe sisho into yokubana there are many contributing factors ezibonisa into yobana cases rise every day. I mean, from your view nagendlela obone ngayo, ungabona ukuthi mhlawumbe what more can be done to ensure ukuthi women and children are being protected?
Siswami, it's very hard to answer that question, because first question I would ask Upumongameli when this is happening, because he has the final say in the country. One, DNAs are having a backlog. Why does not use the specific labs only for this kind of cases that are specifically for gender-based? Because now it's a pandemic. Hospitals, they need to prioritize such cases so that everything gets to the roll as quick as possible. Investigations are done on time, but they are not doing anything. And people are not doing their job, knowing that there won't be any consequences. Taking the case of Omotoso, you could hear the judgment. People didn't do their job. That's a reality. Where are those people? They're still clocking in 9 to 4, even now. But the judgment specifically said it, that people didn't do their job from the investigations at the bottom. What is the consequences for them? Nothing. They're still going to work as usual. While we are fighting for, we lose money going to work. We are on the street every day.
Looks like GBV victims and survivors suffer in silence while perpetrators walk in freely. Konakele Mzansi Africa, what is your view? Be sure to be part of the conversation on our social media platforms. Ingaba xa sijongile Mzansi Africa, is it failing GBV victims? Be sure to be part of the conversation. For now, Masithi Qhuye Venkileni, you're watching Expressions. You are still watching Expressions right here on SABC 1 and DTT. We are talking about GBV in our schools and justice being blamed for failing GBV victims. Apa Nkubeni, please help us welcome PK Kekana, a UJ student who was part of the GBV protest outside the SABC offices. Sawubona, unjani?
Thank you very much for having us. My name is PK Kekana. Greetings to your viewers as well.
Thank you so much for joining us, PK. And I do want to assure you, Mukeli Ndokbana, inombolo ye GBV ikona on your screen. If there's anything that you need to report, feel free to use that number on your screen. PK, we are talking about a very sensitive issue, the issue of GBV. And as a school, you were here last week, you know, protesting, demanding justice, and that, you know, SABC must bring about awareness to indaba ye GBV. I do want to understand, Uguti, I mean, as much as we're doing all these protests as young people, why do you think it's reoccurring?
It's reoccurring because the justice system is failing us. There is no police accountability. We need men and women in blue who will call a spade and make sure that they do their job. The justice system is failing so many young girls in South Africa. That's why as the students, we took it to the streets to go and stand in solidarity with so many young girls who are being subjected to the horrors of injustices in South Africa. It must come to an end. And we came here to the SABC because we felt like that the situation of is not being given too much coverage as the media. The media must put a pressure on the government of Cyril Ramaphosa. It must put pressure on the justice system. It must put pressure on the police to make sure that they do their job.
You also handed over a memorandum. Would you say that as a school you are satisfied? Ingaba mhlambe, all the purpose that you wanted for this protest was fulfilled?
We don't think it was fulfilled because either way we know how the justice system works. We know how the government works. We know how South Africa works. So we need to dismantle the system that makes perpetrators walk free on the streets of South Africa. We must stop the silence from happening around our girls. They don't have that much faith in themselves to go and open cases because why? It never comes to justice. My sister there spoke that in 11 years' time, she won't remember anything. Even a young girl who gets to be raped in communities, they don't have that much faith to think that even if should I open a case, justice will be served. So that's the silence which is being imposed on our young girls, and it must come to an end. That's why as the university, we are using picket lines as a way of showing disgruntlement, as a way of taking that which we are fighting.
Yes, and I also want to understand, Guti, as a university, are there any programs or initiatives that you are currently having to address this GBV pandemic? And I mean, as boys, sikhalangani, nini abe nisihlukumezayo, do you perhaps maybe have dialogues where you speak about healthy masculinity? Because it looks like there's this toxic masculinity yokuthi as indoda kumele ushaye. Do you have dialogues apho nihlala phansi njengamadoda nidodisane?
Patriarchy and impunity. That's exactly what our boys and our men are imposed in. We need to get rid of the mentality of patriarchy in our society, of men who think that because they are people who lead, and then they think that they are dominant in each and every situation. That must come to an end. Women are not only submissive. Women also have rights in South Africa, and those rights must also be taken into consideration. Well, in terms of dialogues, we are looking into it as the university so that we can gather all men in our society and also as students to sit and have a dialogue and have such critical discussions on what are we as men doing, what are we trying to achieve. We need a self-introspection as the men in South Africa to stop the pandemic of GBV. Well, we are also willing to partner with gender equity organizations on campus, such as Women for Change and other gender organizations,
right,
which will help
on the
us,
table. From today, there should be a partnership between you and Commission of Gender Equality. They are right here on Expressions.
From today, we will make sure that we bring change to the students of South Africa, to the people of South Africa. We need a radical and militant change that will make South Africans, especially women, safe in this country.
Yes, and it is time to declare GBV as really a national disaster. Right about now, be sure to not move a muscle. You are watching Expressions. Welcome back. You are still tuning into Expressions right here on SABC 1 and DTT. We always invite you as a young person to partake in our conversations. The issue of GBV. And before, we wrap the show with my guest, I do want to read some of the comments. I want to take one from Sydney Gilroy. He says that my heart breaks reading this. If GBV is such a big problem, why can't every police station, no matter how small, have an officer who is trained in it on call? Why can't they just pick up the phone and ask for help from the nearest social worker to assist her? She is in trauma. She needs someone trained in trauma. We are failing our mothers and sisters. Another one coming from Fifi. Fifi Utiena, justice system is also failing me. I even feel like giving up. You are a victim and you literally have to beg and press the detectives on your case status and progress. Mind you, it's a GBV case with serious charges. Last one is coming from Baba Undaba. Baba Undaba is saying, my sister was brutally murdered on Christmas Eve in Witbank, but the police in Witbank are failing the family. No questions asked. Welcome back, Bunso, Nawe, Notemba. I mean, this is a reality for many GBV victims and survivors. You know what? And looking at other countries, like if you're going to look at Finland, they have strategies as to how they can fight GBV. I mean, they use digital tools. You look at India, their national police. It makes sure Uguti prioritize cases at GBV. And like South Africa, Kalabantu. To ensure that there's a fast tracking of cases wabantu abantu bayaviwa.
All right, Ndimvile usisi kwenye comment eti they need amapolice abe trained on handling GBV cases. That's a recommendation we've made multiple times as the Commission for Gender Equality. Even when we call the SAPS for hearings, we demand to see their registers. We demand to see their training programs. We've also done oversight visits with social offences courts. So it's an issue we've reiterated to amapolice multiple times where they need to be trained, even as in abechuchis. We need to have abechuchis who specialize in prosecuting sexual offences. Even in cases they're not getting regular updates, Google cases out. That's something we've seen as the Commission. And often up until we intervene as the Commission, nothing is done. And then once we intervene, suddenly the case moves. We've reported multiple cases to the SAPS provincial office. So we need people who have the required will to do their jobs, the required expertise to do their jobs, because it also goes back to are they not passionate about doing this job? So we need people who are trained and who have the will to do their jobs.
I mean, how would you describe your support that you received? You know, it was very heartbreaking to hear one of the interviewees who were protesting, you know, on the alleged 7-year-old rape. I myself, I was raped, but I'm here today. I did not get justice. But if this child who is 7 years can get justice, I will be at peace. How would you describe your support and encourage uthini abantu who are currently going ema-courts bebuyela benze njani uqinisekisa into yobana they don't lose or babu resilient?
Okay, now from my own person was that Uti, every time I go to the court, I don't pay anything. Going to the police station to open a case, you don't pay any fees. So no matter how many times they will close your case, go back and open the case. You will receive the audience one way or the other. And the bigger role that was played on my case, it was media. If it was not media, I would still be fighting in silos, somewhere But because
let us definitely break the silence. Yes. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, because of time, we have to cut this conversation. But it continues on social media everywhere. We need to break the silence against gender-based violence. For now, we're leaving you with our poet Nkaniso Nchikaniso with a title titled Inhlungu Yantoni Nale Gender-Based Violence. Hlakanipho iqanga lakho.
Inhlungu yantoni nale mathola maduna. Inhlungu yantoni nale matwana bomgquba. Laphala igazi loMzantsi Afrika, laphala igazi loMzantsundu. Kaloku namhlanje kuleli ntyatyambo zesizwe sikhapha ugazi labantwana bethu intyatyambo zehlobo. Hayi mathola maduna, hayini bantwana bomgquba kuduka imikhondo ezinkantolo kwenzeke ntoni na omantyi bathetha apha bathethe phaya silale ngendlala ngophotho. Hayini bantwana bomgquba lusizi lantoni nolu na uxhaphaxhaphaza lodlongulo ukugwinta kwabantwana begazi Mzantsundu konakele phi na bantwana bomgquba laphala ligazi udlwengulo lungaka kwenzeke ntoni na. Hayini bantwana bomgquba usizi bantwana begazi sibone ngasolinye ayaphi namadoda nomqolo ayaphi namadoda nemfuziselo ayethetha inyani nenyaniso kudede ubumnyama kuvela ukukhanya. Namhlanje thina sesingabotshaba sibaleka bazizizwe sibaleka ngabantwana bethu ngenxa yezenzo zethu. Hayini bantwana bomgquba usizo lungaka xolani bantwana begazi xolani bantwana bomgquba nibuye embo.